Good morning, good morning. This is Romeo Gamet, also known as Maulolo. Today, I want us to learn something about hyperglycemia. The topic for today is hyperglycemia. Hyperglycemia is also known as diabetes mellitus. Now, hyperglycemia is a chronic condition characterized by high level of glucose in the blood as a result of low level of insulin. High level of glucose in the blood as a result of low level of insulin in the body. Now, anytime, every normal human being, once a while we eat, we drink, and most of the time we do a lot of manual works. For that matter, we increase the consumption of carbohydrates every blessed day. Now, if you are someone who have this glucose level in the blood, or let's say what you've eaten is much of carbohydrate, the glucose level is high in the blood. There is some enzymes in the body that we call insulin. This insulin have to react with the glucose, pick up the glucose to various cells for you to get the energy to work. Okay, for you to be normal, get more energy to work, to do your manual work. But unfortunately, if this insulin is not reacting with what the glucose, you see that the glucose level will be very high in the blood. So you'll be diagnosed of having hyperglycemia or diabetes mellitus. There are several ways that man can develop hyperglycemia. And then we also have several types of hyperglycemia, that is the diabetes mellitus. We have type 1 diabetes, type 2 diabetes, gestational diabetes, and even we have secondary diabetes. Now, the type 1 diabetes is also known as insulin dependent diabetes or juvenile diabetes. Why do I say insulin dependent diabetes? There's an organ in the system just below the stomach called the pancreas. This pancreas process or produces some amount of insulin for the body. So anytime you've eaten something carbohydrate, the pancreas have to produce some amount of this insulin to react with what? The sugar or the glucose. Pick up the glucose to various cells of the body for you to get the energy to work. But inability of the pancreas to produce this amount of insulin for us, so the glucose level will be high. So anytime a person is having less production of insulin or no insulin in the system, your glucose level will be high. So for that matter, you'll be diagnosed of having type 1 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes, one way or the other, you may have the insulin in the system or you may have the insulin in the body, all right, but the body cells are resistant to the insulin. They are not using the insulin for anything. Yes, still your sugar level or the glucose level will be high. Okay, now that is type 2 diabetes. Now the gestational diabetes, that is the third one. Talking about the gestational diabetes, this mostly affects pregnant women. You see, anytime a woman is pregnant, some of them, the placenta that develop releases some hormones that stop the production of what? The insulin. Insulin, I said, is something that anytime you eat something carbohydrate, let's say you've eaten benku, anything starchy, this insulin have to react with the glucose, pick up the glucose, give it to other cells in the body for you to get the energy. Now, anytime some women, anytime they are pregnant, what happens is that the placenta releases these hormones and they stop the production of insulin. So the pancreas can no longer produce enough insulin for the body to fight against the glucose level. So this woman will be diagnosed of having a hyperglycemia. Sometime after they deliver, this diabetes is off. Yes, that is what happened to some of the ladies, our ladies who got pregnant. Sometimes they will be diagnosed of having diabetes or hyperglycemia just after they deliver. This condition is off. That's what we call the gestational diabetes. Okay, so here we're talking about the type 1 diabetes when you don't have insulin in the blood or you have little insulin in the blood. And then we also talk about what type 2 diabetes when the insulin is present but the body cells are not using it. They are resistant to the insulin. Yes, so you'll be diagnosed of having what? Diabetes or hyperglycemia. Okay, so now I want us to also talk about some signs and symptoms. How do I know I have diabetes or diabetes is on the way? First, you'll be experiencing excessive thirst. When you are there, you feel like taking enough water, you'll be having this kind of dry throats or whatever. So you feel this kind of excessive thirst. And then also, you have frequent urine output. Frequent urine output. When the glucose level is high in the blood, these are some of the symptoms. You have excessive thirst, frequent urine output, and then also you have extreme hunger. Extreme hunger. You know, there are people, anything at all that pass by, they feel like eating it, though they are okay. But you have this extreme hunger. And then also we have unexplained weight loss. When you are there within a point in time, you see that no, you are reducing in weight. When it happens like that, you can go for diagnosis. Let's see what is happening in the blood as well. And then also fatigability. You wake up early morning, you feel so weak, as if you've done something in the night, or you do some manual work. You've not done anything, but you feel this fatigue or fatigability. Is one of what? The signs and symptoms. Okay, and then we have blur vision. So we got a point in time, then you are seeing blur. You can't see clear. It may be a sign of what? Hyperglycemia or diabetes. Okay, you also have slow healing of wound. There are a lot of people, when they have a cut, when they have wound, you find it difficult. Sometimes the wound, you have slow healing of wound. The wound will not heal as normal, or it took a time before the wound will heal. These are all signs and symptoms of what? Hyperglycemia. Frequent urine output. Now let me clarify this. Frequent urine output. When you are someone that you take enough water, every normal human being, within a day, it is advisable to take in 8 glasses of water. But especially if you are someone who works under the sun, or you are manual workers and those things, you do hard work, you can take about 10 glasses of water a day. It is okay. When you are someone who takes in enough water, you pass out urine frequently, meaning frequent urine output. Fine, it is good, because the kidney secretes the fluid level in the system and supply the bladder with unwanted one. So if anytime the bladder is full, the sphincter of the bladder sends the brain that you want to pass out urine, meaning the bladder is full. You frequently pass out urine. Okay, but let's look at someone who don't take enough water, but almost all the time you feel like passing out fluid, or you feel like passing out urine frequently. It's a sign of hyperglycemia. You can go to the hospital for diagnosis and let's check your sugar level. Anytime we want to know if your sugar level is high, early morning when you've not eaten, and we monitor your sugar level or the glucose level, we have to get something like 3.5 to 5.0, 5.5 millimole per liter when you've not eaten. And we get this, then that means that the sugar level is okay. When the sugar level, or when we monitor the sugar level, the glucose level, and you have 3.5 or 5.5 millimole per liter, then that means the glucose level is okay. When you've eaten and we monitor the glucose level, and we have, let's say, 5.5 to 10 maximally, or 6.5 or 7.5 maximally, then that means the glucose level is okay when you've eaten. But let's say you've not eaten, and we check your glucose level, and you have something like 7.5 or 10 point something millimole per liter, then that means your glucose level is high. You'll be diagnosed of having hyperglycemia. Okay, someone may ask, how do I develop this? So let me tell you the causes. 1, genetic or family history. There's something we call genetic inheritance. When you have hyperglycemia as a condition in your family, one way or the other, genetically, you may get it. It's automatically you may get it. There's nothing you can do about it. Now, Not only genetic, excessive consumption of glucose or excessive intake of what sugar, you may also get it. Excessive smoking, one way or the other, may trigger the condition. Excessive alcoholism, one way or the other, may trigger the hyperglycemia. Okay, so it is not only genetic, family history. You have the sugar in your family every day, one way or the other. Your family, either your mother's side, your father's side, they've been diagnosed of hyperglycemia, genetic inheritance. You may get it. So it is there as well, something that is there. You cannot do anything about it. So when you are seeing these kind of symptoms, please quickly go to the hospital and diagnose yourself, or go to any other pharmacies that check up this glucose level. When you get something like 3.5 millimole per liter when you have not eaten, we said your glucose level is normal. 3.5 to 5.5 millimole per liter is okay. But if you check early morning, you've not eaten, you check your glucose level, and then you have something like 10, 7 and above, please advise yourself. Look at kind of food you eat and all that. Okay, our next meeting, I'll continue with our lesson.